Climate change is impacting people's lives all over the world. But of all sectors, agriculture is affected the most, suffering 26% of all damage and loss caused by climate-related disasters globally. Coping with the impact of climate change in agriculture, forestry and fisheries is now a top priority, especially following the 2015 Paris Agreement, for which 9 out of 10 developing countries included adaptation in the agricultural sectors in their nationally determined contributions. Now, a global programme of the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, and the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, is assisting countries to identify and integrate climate change adaptation measures into their national planning and budgeting processes. NAPAG, or the Integrating Agriculture in National Adaptation Plans programme, is funded by the German government and operates in Africa, Asia and Latin America to help build skills, strengthen partnerships and leverage finance. Preparing a national adaptation plan must be a country-driven process in which each nation takes its own approach, and all sectors, including agriculture, must be part of that process. Each of the 11 countries involved is unique and faces different impacts.
Agriculture food security is a matter of life and death in Uganda. It's about survival of humanity. And therefore, the sectoral NAP, or integration of agriculture, has been seen as a key starting point, how to have a harmonized and a prioritized approach, how to address agriculture investments in the midst of the problem of climate change.
Uganda has given particular emphasis to agriculture in its National Adaptation Plan. This was achieved through the successful collaboration of stakeholders in national and local government, finance, civil society, the private sector and academia. Now, with a NAP for the agriculture sector in place, Uganda is focusing on implementing activities, including developing an investment framework. With the support of NAPAG, Uganda will continue to engage with a broad range of stakeholders at all levels of planning.
The NAP is important, and we are happy that the government has embraced it, and we are working very closely with the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, and also the Climate Change Department at the Ministry of Water and Environment, to make sure that these things are addressed as agreed in the international fora.
เพราะฉะนั้นความสำคัญที่เราจะต้องดูแลคนใน 25 ล้านคนเนี่ยมันค่อนข้างมากแล้วก็ในการผลิตสินค้าเกษตรเนี่ยเราเนี่ยเป็นประเทศผู้ส่งออกสินค้าเกษตรไปยังทั่วโลกถือได้ว่าเป็นอันดับ 7 อันดับ 8 ของโลกเพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยการให้ความสำคัญในเรื่องสินค้าเกษตรมีความจำเป็นอย่างยิ่งเลยค่ะ
In Thailand, the NAPAG programme is supporting the country to build on what is already working by updating their climate change strategic plan for the agricultural sector 2017 to 2021. NAPAG helps to develop comprehensive roadmaps for countries to develop their adaptation plans. This involves strategic planning exercises to develop better information, to understand the different climate change risks that are faced by each sector, in order to develop the tools and capacity to respond to those changes.
Every country has its own priorities and they have their own policy framework, so there isn't a one-size-fits-all. But what the NAPAG is actually doing, firstly, it's working with the agriculture ministries and the ministries of environment to try and build the capacity of its staff to plan for climate change. So that includes cost-benefit analysis, multi-criteria prioritization, having the skills to interpret climate information, and also designing projects.
In the presentation, we start with the overview of the strategic plan, and then we going to the action plan. Then we try to give them the overview of the climate change situation in Thailand. And then we start the brainstorming to see how we can initiate any project better. One is very interesting is we try to increase the area of forest in Thailand. It would help.
Colombia already has a National Adaptation Plan in place and is now developing National Adaptation Plans for different sectors, including agriculture. After 52 years of violence, the nation's peacemaking process is the country's main priority, which shapes and informs all planning. Regarding climate change, the revitalisation of rural areas is key to both peace and adaptation. Another common element is the promotion of gender equality.
Consideramos que al incluir esta perspectiva de género y a la mujer, digamos, como centro, como eje en los procesos de adaptación, nos ayudaría también a tener políticas mucho más eficaces, en el sentido que no solamente estamos apuntando a los propósitos exclusivos de sociedades más resilientes, sino que también vamos construyendo sociedades, comunidades mucho más seguras, y pues eso nos ayuda también a poder consolidar procesos relacionados con el desarrollo.
Y todo esto va a permitir que se pueda tener una articulación de acuerdo al momento que estamos viviendo en nuestro país, que es el proceso de paz.
The NAPAG programme's approach to gender mainstreaming, including awareness-raising workshops like this one, have caught the attention of adaptation planners in other sectors, who plan to adopt a similar approach.
The value of the program as well is for the countries to share experiences. It's a global program, it involves a number of countries. And often what one country is doing is going to be very interesting to another country. So the NAPAG program can facilitate that learning.
While each country faces the common challenge of climate change, each one is pursuing its unique path in meeting its international commitments. The NAPAG programme continues to support these nations to ensure that agriculture is central in their adaptation planning. Ultimately, it will contribute to achieving the Paris Agreement and the global goals set in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development.